Welcome to another episode of Islands in the League, our exclusive YouTube video series presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. We've got a fun episode for you guys today. We're going to do a quick examination and a thought about post-All-Star break team records. And does it really matter in a chase for a title? We're also introducing a new segment called Build Around, where we take one past player, one past NBA great, and discuss how we would build around that player in today's NBA using real players from the modern game. And of course, as always, we'll be joined by Josh Appelbaum, our resident sports betting expert. This is Islands in the League presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's go. Look, every single team wants to play well going into the playoffs. It's much better than the alternative, where you're out of sorts, out of rhythm, questions about your defense, questions about your offense. But is the end of the regular season more noise than anything else? You certainly can look at recent examples. Last year, the Lakers, 16-4 in their last 20 games, end up winning their play-in game, get all the way to the conference finals before they're swept from the Nuggets. But if you look at the past two NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets in 2023 and the Golden State Warriors in 2022, the Nuggets were 12-11 after the All-Star break. The Warriors were 11-12 after the All-Star break. Now, some of that for the Nuggets last season. They rested some starters. Their defense cratered. They fell apart in their rotations. Jokic at times seemed a little disinterested in winning his third straight MVP, let's be honest. But they rebounded in time. They introduced a new rotation with Aaron Gordon at the backup center during the playoffs. They shortened everything out, and they went on to win the franchise's first championship. Now, if we took a look at the last 15 NBA finals, both the champion and the runner-up, all of those teams combined, 30 teams in 15 seasons, had a winning percentage of 65.5% after the All-Star break. Teams now play roughly 55 games before the All-Star break and 27 games after. That's essentially a 17-10 or an 18-9 record. Pretty good. So it is a little bit of a marker that in the last 15 years, finals teams have played well in the second half of the season. There's some outliers, though. The 2013 Miami Heat went 30-2 after the All-Star break. The 2020 Miami Heat, the bubble year, they went 9-10 after the All-Star break. The 2017 Cavs with LeBron James went 12-15 after the All-Star break. The point is, regular season success after the All-Star break is not necessarily indicative of whether or not a team is going to make a deep finals run. Why is that? Well, historically, a lot of teams will rest players towards the end of the regular season. Some teams, if they're fighting for a better lottery position, will shut a player down for the rest of the season in the hopes of potentially losing more games and securing a top 5 pick or a top 8 pick, whatever it may be. Of course, there's injuries as well. I'll give you a great example. Our 2009 Orlando Magic team that went to the NBA Finals, we started the first half of the season through 41 games at 33-8. We finished the rest of the season 26-15. We were 21-10 after the All-Star break. Jameer Nelson got hurt, didn't come back until the NBA Finals. We picked up Rafer Alston at the deadline. That team, of course, ended up making the NBA Finals. The next year, we started the season 26-15, identical to the second half of the season the year before. We finished that season 33-8. We swept the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So we were 41-8 going into the Eastern Conference Finals. And then Boston killed us. Got up 3-0. We ended up losing that series in 6 games. Of course, that Boston team went on to lose Game 7 against the Los Angeles Lakers. That Boston team, by the way, just 18-14 after the All-Star break. Now, why do I bring this up? Because the playoffs, to me, have always been about matchups. Manipulating matchups, which teams you match up good against, which teams you match up poorly against. And the best coaches know how to exploit mismatches. So when all of us are prognosticating about who's going to make the NBA Finals, so much of this comes down to a potential injury. You think about Giannis last year in the Bucks series against the Miami Heat, missing essentially 2.5 games. You think about a hot shooting stretch or a cold shooting stretch, late game execution. The playoffs can come down to such small little details. I'll give you an example of why matchups matter. The LA Clippers have been one of the best teams in the NBA since December 1st. They have lost a total of 8 games to only 6 teams. Those teams are the New Orleans Pelicans, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Boston Celtics, the Thunder twice, the Wolves twice, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. What do those teams have in common? Well, 5 of those 6 teams are all rated in the top 6 in defensive efficiency. The Lakers, of course, are 15th as of today. 4 of those teams, the Wolves, the Thunder, the Celtics, and the Cavs, are the top 4 teams at defending the rim. literally allowing the lowest field goal percentage at the rim on layups and dunks. One of those teams, the New Orleans Pelicans, rank second in ISO defense. We talk all the time about Herb Jones and his importance, particularly in the playoffs, if he's able to keep shooting at a 40% clip from three. The LA Clippers, well, they run the most isolations in the NBA in the half court. So, as the regular season comes to an end and we start looking at potential playoff matchups, think about these things. They're probably more important than a team's record after the All-Star break. All right, welcome to a new segment called Build Around. Oftentimes, we talk about how would a past NBA great look in today's modern NBA. And I think it's no secret. Michael Jordan, with all of this space that has been created by the three-point revolution, analytics, all of that stuff, he would absolutely destroy in today's NBA. But how would you build around Michael Jordan? For the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to use a salary cap. I'm going to use current player salaries. And for Michael Jordan, he is going to make $51 million for the purposes of this exercise because that's what Steph Curry makes. Steph Curry is the highest paid player in today's NBA at $51 million. That's what MJ is getting for the purposes of this exercise. Now, for how much my team has to spend, I basically took the teams with the 5 highest payrolls, the Golden State Warriors, the LA Clippers, the Phoenix Suns, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Boston Celtics, averaged out those 5 payrolls. It came to $195 million. I'm going to come up with a rotation of 8 players. The rest will be filled out with minimum contracts. For some people, Michael Jordan is the GOAT. For other people, maybe it's LeBron James. Maybe it's Kobe. Maybe it's Steph. Maybe it's Kareem. Maybe it's Bill Russell. I get it. Here's the thing. Michael Jordan in today's NBA would be a player that had room to drive. He would attack the basket. He would average a ton of free throws. And if he played in today's NBA, he'd probably take 8 to 10 three-point shots a game. When I think about Michael Jordan outside of the triangle system and Phil Jackson, you think about him in the late 80s. There was a stretch of games where he played point guard, had a number of triple-doubles. Michael Jordan would be the primary creator, ball handler, all of that stuff. So for me, it starts with who would you want in a backcourt with Michael Jordan? That's the first decision to be made. What I would want in a backcourt mate for Michael Jordan is a great point of attack defender. I don't want Michael Jordan chasing around Steph Curry. I don't want Michael Jordan having to play pick and roll defense on Trae Young. I want a great point of attack defender, someone who can function as a ball handler, but also play off the ball, someone who can make 40% or more from three. Who is that person I'm describing? Well, of course, it's Derek White. Who else would it be? I mean, come on. It's obvious. It's obvious. Derek White makes $18.3 million. All right. So Michael Jordan at 51, Derek White at 18. Now, a couple of years ago, I made a draft day trade with the New York Knicks, and I moved up to the 11th pick of the 2022 NBA draft. And who did I select? I select Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams, by the way, has been the second best jump shooter in the NBA this season at 49% of all jump shots, 2s and 3s. He's made 49% of his jumpers. He's going to be one of my wings because I think about it with Jordan. He would be a switchable defender in today's NBA. I want 2 more of those switchable defenders. Jalen Williams is one. He's only making 4.5. He's got a couple years left before his max rookie contract extension kicks in. I know he hasn't signed it yet, but he will. Therefore, perfect fit. Jalen Williams, third starter. Now, I talked about switchable wing guys, and I could go big here. I could go for like a Jason Tatum. I just don't think functionally there's a way for me to acquire Jason Tatum. I didn't have the draft pick, unfortunately, in 2017 to draft him. So I'm going to go with a guy who was traded not too long ago. Mikal Bridges coming in right around $22 million a year. Mikal can shoot threes. You can run offense for him directly in the second unit. He's at $22 million. All right, so I've got Derek White, Michael Jordan, Jalen Williams, Mikal Bridges. Center, several years ago, I had a early second-round pick, and I decided to draft a Serbian player named Nikola Jokic. That player turned out to be one of the great players of all time. He's won a couple MVPs, even won me a finals MVP. Nikola Jokic makes $47 million a year. So Nikola Jokic is my center. Now, you think about it. Nikola Jokic likes to play up in pick and roll. On the backside of my defense and on the ball, I've got Derek White, Michael Jordan, Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Williams flying around, creating havoc. Jokic up in pick and roll. Oh, I like it. Also, the reason I like Jokic with Jordan, you think about Michael Jordan in that triangle system. He was great off the ball as a cutter. He was great off the ball getting pin downs. I'm imagining a two-man game with Michael Jordan and Nikola Jokic. Sign me up. The other thing about pairing a big with Michael Jordan is, again, it goes back to the spacing issue. I want a big who can also shoot. Now, Nikola Jokic in the regular season, 35%. It's good enough for me. In the playoffs, Nikola Jokic for his career at 41.2%. Michael Jordan on this team would have all the space in the world. I love this team. I love this team. My starter salaries equate to roughly 142 or 143 million. So I've got some room to work with in building out my 8-man rotation. I'm going to go with a guy who can serve as the backup point guard, who can guard a number of positions, and who can shoot threes off the ball at a high clip. And he's making a ridiculously low salary this year. I'm going to go with Alex Caruso at roughly $9 million a year. I know I have a lot of these 3-and-D guys, but I want one more. All right, I want one more. He's on an expiring contract. It gives me flexibility for the future. I want Royce O'Neal. Give me Royce O'Neal at $9 million. So now I've got Alex Caruso, Royce O'Neal coming off the bench for me. Third, I need another big. I need somebody to back up Jokic. Now, if you look at the Denver Nuggets in the regular season, historically, they have gotten torched in the non-Jokic minutes. I need somebody who's going to really, really help my bench units function, both on the offensive end and the defensive end. Don't have a ton of money left. I'm going to go with Isaiah Hartenstein from the New York Knicks. That's my 8-man rotation. That's how I would build around Michael Jordan. All of my salaries together total about $170 million, which means I saved my owner $25 million plus the luxury tax. I think he'd be more than happy with me as a GM. This is a hilarious exercise, and I can't wait to do this all the time. Wait. Since I've got $25 million left, there's one other guy that I really want on this team that I think would be a perfect fit. And I know you don't need 3 bigs in today's NBA in a rotation. However, the number 1 team in the West has 3 bigs in their rotation. Give me Naz Reid coming off the bench. Shooter, defender, can play make a little bit. He's only making $12.9 million. Give me him. Still, my owner's happy. He's got $13 million left from my original budget. Question for you guys. How would you build around Michael Jordan? All right, let's welcome in Josh Appelbaum. Josh, how we doing, my friend?
JJ, I'm doing great, but are you getting excited for the playoffs? 70% of the season is down, 30% to go, JJ. We got playoff races. I got questions for you about who's going to win 6-man. I got a very competitive division. I need to get your take on who's going to win it. And then also a very important team to make or miss the postseason. So, JJ, it's great to be with you. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. And yes, to answer your question, can't wait for the playoffs to be here. It still seems like there's so much to sort through, particularly in the Western Conference. So why don't we start there? What do you have for me?
Yeah, so I got a question for you, JJ, about the Golden State Warriors. Now, there's an interesting prop bet right now at DraftKings. Will they make or miss the postseason? Now, the important caveat here, which we've talked about on your show, is that in order to make this bet, in order to cash this bet, they have to not only make the play-in, but win the play-in and then get into the official postseason. So basically the question is, can they either, make the regular playoffs? Doesn't seem likely based on the record, but can they make the play-in and then win the play-in and get to the regular postseason? Now, the odds right now, JJ, plus 105, yes, minus 130, no. So it's a relatively coin flip of a situation here. Now, the slight favorite here is to miss the postseason. So they could make the play-in but not advance, or just not make the play-in altogether. That's about a 57% implied probability. And looking at where we stand with this team, JJ, all the talent in the world, questions are kind of, looking at consistency. And now they have been playing well as of late. They're 10-3. They've been hovering around 500. They're 2 games up right now. Wiggins being healthy has made a big impact here. Obviously, Draymond's back, but you still go through the drama with him every now and again. Kuminga's had a big year. Now Clay, he's been kind of an odd situation here. His lowest career 3-point percentage. He's coming off the bench now at times. Brandon Pajemski, this is a guy that I've been watching, JJ. I know you are familiar with too. He's brought them quite a bit of life, but they have 26 games left. Their strength of schedule, maybe this will sway your opinion, JJ. It's the 6th easiest strength of schedule down the stretch. Their opponents have a 469 win percentage. So what's your take on Golden State, JJ? Is this a team that just doesn't have it this year? Do they make the postseason? And in terms of this prop bet, would you go no minus 130 to make the play-in and win in advance, or would you go plus 105? Yes.
It's interesting because of the distinction between play-in versus playoffs, right? So we look at the standings right now. They are 3 games back in the loss column from getting an automatic playoff berth. The 6th seed, Phoenix Suns, have 24 losses. Sacramento Kings with 23 as of this recording. Warriors in 10th, as you said, with 27 losses. But this is a team that is absolutely trending in the right direction. They made Jonathan Kuminga a permanent starter going into the game on January 27th. They played 14 games since then. They're 10-4. Here's the indicators for me. Since that change, they have the number 4 defense over the last 14 games in the NBA. They have the number 10 offense for this season. Again, we've had injuries. We've had Draymond Green suspensions. So they don't have a ton of 5-man lineup data. In fact, their most used 5-man lineup is their new starting lineup. 16 games together, about 148 minutes, but that group has a 21.6 net rating. So if you're thinking about trending in the right direction, they're trending in the right direction with a change that has been made and CP coming back soon from his injury. I don't want to say yes or no, but I would say if the money at plus 105 is the yes and you want to win some money, that's probably the way to go because this is a team that is going forward. I'm very positive about all the metrics, all the indicators, how they're playing. The thing with Kuminga, this is a team that has really just struggled to score in the paint, and he has given them something that they frankly just haven't had, and that is a bulldozer of a driver. He attacks the rim. His cutting has improved so much over the last 2 years. He's really learned to play within the Steph Curry system. And then the Draymond thing is huge too, because I think with everybody talks about their defense, and obviously their defense is better with Draymond Green. Their offense functions so much better with Draymond Green in the lineup because he's a hub, because he's a quarterback, his decision-making, the way he gets defensive rebounds and pushes pace. They needed all of that, and it was certainly missing in the time that he's been out of the lineup. So I like this team. I like the way they're playing. My general sort of feeling on it is that they will be in the playoffs. The only caveat to that, and we discussed this earlier this week on our podcast. You look at these top 10 teams in the Western Conference. It's really hard to decipher, even when we get to the playoffs and it's 1 through 8, what's an easy series for a higher seed? And if you're in that 7 to 10 spot working to get into the play-in, and let's say Golden State doesn't move up to 6, well, Pelicans, Suns, Kings potentially, Mavs, Lakers, Warriors. These games are going to be incredibly competitive. And so it's really hard, I think, to predict how this is all going to shake out because the Lakers have played better. The Warriors have played better. The Mavs lost last night, but we're on a 7-game win streak. They look like a different team with P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford. I've been high on the Pelicans all year. Phoenix Suns, when they are healthy, have one of the best 5-man units in the entire NBA. And the Sacramento Kings, De'Aaron Fox, back to playing at an all-NBA level. Had a great start to the season. I'm not going to say he fell off, but his play of late, 4 straight games, 25, 5, and 5. Come on, man. This Western Conference is loaded. And I think in this case, like I said, Josh, if you're looking to make some money, the plus is the one for me. And all the indicators say that the Golden State Warriors are playing good basketball right now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, JJ. Again, I think it's a product of just the loaded Western Conference that you talk about. Just so many great teams here. I kind of respect, obviously, the odds makers are putting a minus number in front of the no. No minus, plus yes. I think there's a psychological thing toward wanting to go yes plus money, but I would lean there. Again, just the way the direction this team is playing. Now, JJ, you mentioned this loaded Western Conference. I got another question I got to ask you. We got to go to the Northwest Division in the NBA because this division here is loaded, and there are 3 teams that all are kind of slight dogs here, or kind of co-favorites to win this Northwestern Division. Now, I wanted to give you a division here that was competitive because there are others like the Clippers are minus 2,500 to win their division. Celtics are such a favorite; they're off the board. So you got a lot of minus numbers that just probably will hit but aren't bettable because they're so expensive. But here's where I think we can make some money, JJ. If you look at the current odds from the Northwest Division, Oklahoma City is the favorite at plus 135. Bet 100, win 135, get your 100 back if they cash. T-Wolves plus 175 right behind them. Then the Nuggets are plus 250. Now, Jazz, no shot here. They're plus 10,000. But we have three teams between plus 135 and plus 250. So I think if you can cap this one correctly, this is a money-making opportunity. Now, we do have OKC and the T-Wolves tied. The Nuggets are 1.5 games back, but three teams separated by 1.5 games. I mean, there's some value here if you can find the plus money. Now, OKC does have the easiest remaining schedule of all the three teams, but they're relatively close. 492 is their remaining schedule. 493 for Minnesota. Denver basically playing 500 teams down the stretch. But I'm looking at some offensive defensive efficiency ratings, JJ. I mean, OKC based on the metrics, I bet a lot of college basketball. We lean on Ken Pom. Hollinger's metrics really say OKC is the best team of the three. They're number 2 offensive efficiency, number 4 defensive. Now, Minnesota is only 17th offensive, but they have a great defense. They're number 1. And then Denver, it just feels like maybe we're not respecting them, or I'll get your take on how meaningful it is to win this division after you win the NBA title. But they're 10th offensive, 12th defensive. So, JJ, I don't know if you can go wrong picking any of these three teams to win this division here, but what do you think? OKC, T-Wolves, Nuggets, who do you like to win this division, and where can we get some plus money here?
Yeah, I think you're spot on here in that there's really not anything that separates these teams when we look at some of these advanced numbers. You mentioned the Minnesota offense, and I think that's important, but their defense has been just so damn good this year that they still are one of the top teams in the NBA in terms of net rating, despite having such a bad defense. So 3rd overall in net rating, Oklahoma City 2, Boston ahead of everybody else at number 1. So all three of these teams are excellent basketball teams. All three of these teams, to me, are contenders in the Western Conference. To me, this is a toss-up. And you mentioned the money. They're all plus money, right? My only thing, and this is not a prediction, Josh. My only thing is that last year we saw the Denver Nuggets secure the number 1 seed. And I'm not going to say they punted the last few weeks of the regular season, but they sat some guys. Their defense really fell off. They were a top 10 defense for like 3 straight months last season. The way they've defended lately, I really like. Jokic back to just mastering the game, controlling every aspect of the game. His defense has been really good. So if I had to say one, I think to win the division potentially would be the Denver Nuggets. But I like all three of these teams so much. I really do. This is a very hard one for me to predict, to be honest.
I'm with you. I think, again, you can make a case for all three of these. I mean, just the value in terms of a defending champ plus 250. Obviously, the home court edge at Mile High is really important as well. And then OKC, I mean, they're great, but they're a bit young. They haven't really been in this spot before. Maybe questions about them as well. So I'm with you, JJ. I think the value probably is with Denver here, but it's a coin flip between all three.
We talked about this last week, but I want to get some of your thoughts and go over the updated odds here on the 6th man of the year, because to me, all of these regular season awards, one of the big factors is team success. I think generally Rookie of the Year is probably the one that matters the least. But Coach of the Year, MVP, the All-NBA awards, like all the voters are factoring in team success. So where do we stand right now with the 6th man of the year? And I'll get into sort of how that relates to what I think will happen, or what I think is trending in sort of over the last 25, 24 games of the season.
Yeah, JJ. So I think we've done a pretty good job on this show highlighting the awards market throughout the year. I mean, if you've been listening, you've been holding some pretty good numbers right now. We highlighted Jokic MVP. He's all the way to minus 160 now that Embiid's been hurt. We also talked about most improved. JJ, you really crushed it on that one. We had Maxey, a month and a half ago at like plus 100 even money. Maxey's now minus 240. So again, these numbers have moved, but this is kind of the last one to me that has some value. Now, as we stand right now, JJ, Malik Monk is the favorite to win the 6th man of the year. He's minus 130. It's a minus number, but it's not that expensive. That's playable to me. Powell is plus 400 on the Clippers, and Tim Hardaway Jr. is plus 500. Now, Hardaway actually at one point throughout the season was the favorite here. But again, we also saw Austin Reeves as the favorite. So I think this award is really important because it's not just, who you think is coming off the bench, but do they play well enough to then be a starter? And then obviously the rules here, like all the other games, all the other awards, you got to play 65 games. You got to come off the bench more often than you start. So Reeves really isn't in that conversation. I mean, Russell Westbrook at one point had his name up here on the odds. So I'm just looking at, kind of what you mentioned, JJ. Like, I think last year Malcolm Brogdon was a great example of this award because, he had a really good year, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, never started a single game. He had 67 games off the bench. But as you mentioned, he was really the best player off the bench on the best team in the NBA. And I think to your point of where these voters gravitate toward, that's kind of the recipe for winning this one. So I'm looking at the records right now. I mean, Clippers are a great 37-19. They've been making a push here for the top seed out west. Powell's averaging 14 points a game, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. Malik Monk, though, I want to get your take on Malik Monk. He hasn't started a single game. He's come off the bench every single game. Sacramento's 33-23. He's averaging 15 points a game. That's a career high. And then Hardaway, obviously, he's down here a little bit, but he has started some games. So to me, I think the question is, if you believe in Monk, you probably want to play him now, -130, because that number could get higher. Or JJ, I'd love your thoughts on Powell, because Powell's a guy who has really ascended in this award market recently. He really wasn't up there in the top 3 or 4 for much of the year. He's really made a push as of late.
Yeah, I think Malik Monk, as the odds state, he's the favorite here. Part of this award to me is like the winning for sure, the production for sure, but what does your team need, and how important is that to what you're trying to do as a team? And Malik Monk coming off the bench has been fantastic. I think the one thing that I would sort of, for some of us like me that are advanced stat nerds, the lineup data says that when Huerter's on the court with the other 4 starters, their net rating is, I think, around 8, 7.7, 7.6, something like that, as of today. With Monk in that lineup outside of Huerter, which is their second most used lineup after their normal starting group, they're at -0.3. So impact on winning, certainly. But as you said, Malik Monk, he's averaging a career high in points, also averaging a career high in assists. This is his best season, and he certainly fits the mold of a true 6th man. Powell is interesting to me because of the Clippers' overall team success, something to certainly monitor, especially as these numbers shift and he stays probably in the pluses. I don't think he becomes the odds-on favorite unless it's super late. But when I look at their team and I think about the big 3 and sort of how much they matter to that team, it's hard for me to say I would, as of today, I would vote for Norman Powell as 6th man. The one guy that's interesting is Tim Hardaway. I was his teammate. I've seen him go on 6, 7, 8, 9 game runs where he shoots 45% from 3 and goes for about 20 a game. He's certainly capable down the stretch as this Mavs roster, this improved Mavs roster, hopefully positions themselves for a higher playoff seed. So at +500, if you're looking to take some plus money here, I think that's the play over Norman Powell. But Malik Monk still, I think, is the 6th man of the year as of today.
Yeah, I'd lead Monk too, JJ. And I'll just give you a quick story here. I was at the Super Bowl for obviously covering the football game here. We talk NBA, but you would have loved this because the Comeback Player of the Year award, just to kind of make a connection, NBA and NFL for these awards, because they are voted on by people. I mean, DeMar Hamlin all year was the huge favorite. He was as high as like -500 to win the Comeback Player of the Year. It wasn't until the very end where Joe Flacco out of nowhere led, the Browns to a couple wins down the stretch, and his money moved really late. But I was actually at the same hotel when they did the NFL awards, and when they announced it was Flacco, it was an absolute shock. I mean, people had loaded up on DeMar Hamlin all year long thinking, hey, he doesn't have to have 10 interceptions as long as he plays the comeback story after that, really scary situation on the field. He was going to wrap this thing up. So just a caution to all the bettors out there that, things can change. They are voted on by humans. But as of right now, I mean, you really got to trust the data, and it does say Monk is your favorite.
Also, too, as someone who, watches these awards all the time, like I think a lot of voters do wait to the very end. There's I think 24 hours from the end of the regular season, the last game, to when your votes are essentially due. And I know a lot of people wait to the end. Some people vote early and they've made up their minds, but this stuff can all shift. Fascinating stuff. Josh, always a pleasure to catch up. Great topics today, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Sounds good, JJ. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks. This has been another episode of Islands in the League, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. As always, thank you for watching.